Welcome to this week's edition of the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brown, with the head coach, Chad Brubaker. Springford defeated, now we can say it, Perkiomen Valley, 28-7 this past week to put them in the driver's seat in the PAC division. Coach, congratulations to you and the crew on Friday night. Here's what I'll say. We talk about sometimes in these big games, and we talk about who's going to make mistakes and stuff like that. And it was a game where we made some mistakes, but we found a way to overcome it. I thought the defense did a really good job with having short fields against themselves, but kudos you guys to finding a way to, get some stops and score when you had opportunities too, in a game where mistakes really were a big part of it too. Yeah, they were, and our mistakes were primarily on special teams. Although we did have a drop pass or two, we had one in the first drive, but offense, we were just a little inconsistent, more inconsistent than you want to be in a big game like that. But our defense came through tremendously. I mean, they had short fields. I don't know that I think they only started in their own territory twice. Yeah. And we had issues on kickoff and punt return in particular. And that really gave them great field position on 4 different occasions, 5 different occasions. And you just can't do that. And that was obviously a huge focus for us this week in straightening some of those things out. And it's like we had a meeting beforehand, but I didn't talk about the question. You talked about the inconsistency there. I thought it was a game that, once again, it was your first and second down weren't what you were essentially looking for. Now, once again, you came up with big third down plays, or you went for it in fourth down and you got it. But you also don't want to put yourself in situations where you're behind the sticks and you're throwing incomplete pass, and now you're essentially they're watching you. We're gonna throw it. And you just made some plays on big downs, I would say too. Yeah, Matt told me after the game that he got like a hit on the funny bone on his throwing arm. Okay. And early in the game, you're saying. Early in the game, and that caused some inconsistency, and you can see that in the second quarter. Okay. And I'm like, you got to tell me that. He didn't want to tell me. He's like, you were going to take me out. And I was like, if the trainers say you got hit on the funny bone, essentially, that's not a huge deal, but we can adjust, what we're trying to do, limit if we have to throw, kind of choose that throw and do some other things. But he didn't want to come out of the game. No, right. So nobody wants to come out. He did look right, but he did talk to the trainer, unbeknownst to me. So since there wasn't a real issue, the trainers, I never got that communication. But it did certainly affect some of his throws. He was a little low on some, a little high on a couple, especially in that second quarter when it happened. But so so let's get at it. How do you relay the message to we got to be better on first and second down, or what goes into being better on first and second down? I've talked. So you know how it is. Just in terms of athletics, all right? Yep. If you were a three-point shooter, all right? Yeah. If you miss 2 or 3, what are you gonna do the next time? Shooting. And that's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I'm guessing you weren't the best at dribble drive. Dribble drives. Stand outside the 3 shoot. I'm just taking a guess. Yeah, that's fine. Right, but so that's what you do. And I think sometimes again, if we want to, what I've been saying to Matt is, listen, we got to, and we've said this before in the show, take that one, take that little one, take that easy one. Yeah. Now get back on second and third and short, and we can maybe take some shots. Yeah. He was laser focused during the game. He was, suggesting plays, things that he saw. And they did a really good job of, you got to also give credit to them. They did a really good job of kind of showing a look right before the snap and then backing out of it or coming or moving. Confusing, yeah. Especially on the perimeter. Because obviously I think anybody that was there saw that we were trying to spread them out, get a very clear number in the box, and do what we were going to do from there. But, they do a tremendous job. I said it after the game to a couple of the journalists there. They cause chaos at the line of scrimmage, and they do some things that, I don't know necessarily that, we couldn't teach some of the things that they do because they're doing controlled chaos within a system. Like, we tell kids very specifically, you can't avoid the block. You gotta work off the block because there's somebody coming in behind you. They sometimes they'll like Olay blocks on purpose and then just chase, and it works for them. They do a tremendous job. Their kids play extremely hard on defense every down, and that's what they do. They cause some of those second and third and longs when you think you have a play there.
Okay, so that's where I guess I'm going to lead to next is how much you as a play caller, when you're calling first down, are you thinking about second down? You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Talk about, like, I guess that's a little bit because, like, there's part of me as Joe Schmo in the crowd, like, all right, I'm going to go for this no matter what on fourth down. Like, I'm you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to try and cut the yards from 10 to 5, whatever the case may be.
We talk about that in the headset. Guy Rodenball's up in the box, and he does a great job of, like, letting me know, like, okay, hey, we're 3rd and 4.
Are we going for
are
this?
We gonna, make your play call based on, are we going to go for it or not?
Okay.
Do you need the 4 yards now, or can you chop it into 2? So he does a great job of that, and staying in my ear about those types of things. But you definitely have to make a play call based on what you're going to do next play.
Sure.
And I say
I guess
I didn't word that great.
I guess I'm thinking about it like as you get close to 3rd and 4th down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where you're.
Yeah,
trying
that's
to say,
more.
like,
but on first down, I will say, I have maybe 2 ideas in my head for second down. If we get 3 or less, it's A. If it's 6 or more, B. That type of thing. So
that's what I was. Yeah, it's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to get inside a little bit here is the end of the first half. I thought like it could have been an opportunity. Like, I think we got the ball back in less than 2 minutes, 2 timeouts, and I want to say we're like on our own 30.
Yeah.
Was there any say, let's just get in the half. We're up 14-0. Because it looked like you're trying to score. You're throwing the ball, and now I'm like, well, now we got to punt it. You know what I mean? Like, there's
we got the ball back again.
I know. I guess I'm saying. I guess there's part of me. It's like, let's just get out of here. Let's just get in the half and.
Yeah. There's times where we would consider that, but like again, when if you have a Corvette, right?
Let it go.
Do you do you get out on the highway, or do you?
No, I got.
You take some windy back roads where the speed limit's 35.
Let it get going.
We've done that. We've said, okay, we're up 14 at the half. Let's just see if we get a big play on a running play or a normal play. Like, okay, let's go.
Sure.
But again, we had a package. We had a no huddle package that we had worked on that week, and Matt handled it very well in practice. And let's go. And he was calling.
And that's where I'm not privy to that. Like, hey,
that's why we have this show.
A big part of our preparation last week was putting in a no huddle drill, and like, okay, if you tell me that, then I'm okay with it. And now one more thing here, and I know we'll talk defense. Is that something you're even running by that I'm calling what I want to do?
For the most part, Coach Mick is and the defensive staff is very supportive. There's times they'll come over and say, hey, we're not playing real well right now. Can you, if that situation happens, maybe let's go into the half. But for the most part, they know my mindset, and they're on board with it. Like I said, if they weren't on board with it, they'd click over and tell me. But they trust our offense just as we trust them, and they've been doing a great job.
Listen, my questions have been answered as a big journalist.
Good,
I appreciate that.
Good.
With
Big
J journalism here. With all that being said, let's take a look at the offensive highlights from Springford, Perkiomen Valley.
Offensive highlights are brought to you by Dimitri's Pizza.
Okay, here we are. So this is one of the first plays of the game. This is Jamal Lewis. Might have been
I think it is the first play of the game.
Jamal Lewis, this is one of our game plan plays. This play simplifies their box a little bit for us, which is why we went back to it. I think we probably ran this 10, 12 times during the game. But Jamal's just getting better and better, doing an excellent job. Here's where, like, one of the things that you're saying,
you just kind of make a play here.
We're 2nd and 5, right? And if you watch this, I don't know if there is an end zone, but you see right now, I told Matt, take the hitch right now. It's a first down. It's a first down. Be on time. Now, he was looking to the seam. Mason Scott was up the seam, and I thought he might have had him too. But if you don't have that come down to the hitch, this was actually a 4th down play.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like another one you kind of get away with.
But well, we don't get away with it. I mean,
sorry, you got nothing on 3 downs before. I guess what I'm trying to get at.
And on that play, we knew the matchup and liked the matchup. This is the last touchdown.
The timeout. Yeah.
Ian Patika did a great job. This game we gave him like some small jobs and then had this kind of working off of his small jobs.
Set up perfectly for you, too.
Ian Patika in practice, he's one of those kids like in practice, he catches everything. He catches balls that he has no business catching. And, we're considering next year, like, now he's doing a pretty good job as like an H-back guy right now. But he's like a guy that, I always tell the kids, we talk constantly as coaches. And we don't just talk about next week or next month or last week or whatever. We talk about next year. And one of the things that we've talked about is like, could Ian play wide receiver next year? He just catches everything. So we wanted to get him on the field and gave him a package. And the great thing about that, and I don't know if you saw it in that clip, but if you look at either the PCTV or the RCTV broadcast of it, because ours clips off at the end. The 2 most happiest people in the whole stadium for him were Ryan Kirchner and Declan Finney. And those are the other 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
Declan Finney, could have said, hey, man, that would have been.
That's my play.
That's my role, whatever. Ryan Kirchner, they really at some points double-teamed Ryan Kirchner, whether on purpose or not. Didn't have any catches, blocked very well for us. And the 2 happiest kids on the field for Ian
are the guys in the
were
room.
The guys in the room. And that is the greatest thing you can possibly have on a team. And that was something that we really emphasized.
And he came back from earlier,
Yeah,
thing on
we didn't block very well on that one play.
Yeah, but kudos for him coming back in. It could have been like, I don't feel good, whatever.
I don't know. It's not rated R but he regurgitated twice
I saw
on
it.
the
I saw
field.
it. Yeah, I saw it. Oh yeah. Puke and rally.
It was to his credit. He was like, I'm going to throw up one more time. Throws up and he goes, I'm good. Let's go. So I was like, all right.
Kudos to Trainer Dan for
spraying the field.
Spraying the field down. All right. Good stuff, Coach. All right. Are we back with, after commercial break, and do the defensive highlights from Springford, Perkins Valley?
The family's visit to the forest inspired a beautiful question. Mother, mother, am I a tree? You tell me to stand tall. You tell me to stay rooted. I think I am a tree. My child, of course you are. But what kind of tree will you be? The kind to hug or the kind to climb? Doesn't matter what you choose, so long as you choose to be a tree that's kind.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. This is unacceptable, and something Feeding America is working to solve. Through a nationwide network of food banks, Feeding America serves virtually every community in the United States, including yours. See how you can help your community. Visit feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
Welcome back to the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriots Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brewer, the head coach, Chad Brubaker. All right, Coach, before we talk defense, announcements. I don't think we have a lot of announcements. We're going on the road here for 2 weeks. You're going to get back in that yellow bus that you guys love. But I was looking at the District 1 website. You guys have moved up now. I think you're 5th in the rankings. Yep, top 5 in the rankings right there. Down in County East, just behind you. I saw Down in County East, no contest this
how
past
about
week
that?
with Academy Park.
Well,
So-
I calculated the points. They still would have been behind us no matter what.
Okay, even if they were going to win there.
Because it's the average, right?
And it's their Academy Park's a 5A and only has one win.
And so they still would have been behind us.
I've also noticed that I've seen Cumberland Valley's won some games out in District 3. Governor Mifflin's up to 3 wins on the season. So that's obviously helping your cause.
We're rooting for those teams, down the stretch. We kind of have a little spreadsheet working.
Okay.
And, I think that Mifflin can definitely get 2 out of the 3. Township's going to get 3, I would guess.
And they're also number 1 in District 3 rankings right now. I'm sure I heard that maybe broadcasted they're top 2 in the state right now, 6A. Is that
2 or 3, depending on
which poll
you
you're
look
looking at.
Well,
yep.
I tell you what, some of the polls are so ridiculous in terms of, like if you preseason put a team up there and they haven't lost,
They got to stay there.
they kind of have to stay there. But there's a couple teams on the list, in my opinion, just looking at, and again, you can't necessarily always compare scores, but when one score is 40-7 and another score is 14-7, you can make some inferences as to who the better team is when they're playing comparable opponents, but or common opponents.
Yeah, but we're not here to, we're out
Yeah,
there
so
to
we're
play
fifth.
football.
We're fifth.
In the driver's seat for a home game, and then once again, the goal would be to get to 4, right? Because
the goal is to get to 1,
Okay.
but I think we can get to 2 according to my spreadsheet.
You think so?
So if Mifflin wins 2, Township wins 3, Father Judge could get 2 potentially, and who am I missing? Cumberland Valley can get 2 as well. Those points, that's where those District 3 teams and whatever playing those teams can get you a lot of points. Because again, in the league, it's 50-50.
Right, because last year you were 8, and then you went to 1. But if you're the 1 through 4, you're essentially giving yourself guaranteed 2 home games.
Guaranteed 2,
guaranteed
yeah.
2 if you win that first one. So
if
that's
you go to 2 and you
now
keep
you're
winning,
getting
you're
yourself
guaranteed 3, right?
Right. So, all right. So good stuff right there. Maybe we'll throw the bracket out for next week. Show people the
There you
stats
go.
and sort of thing, in case you don't know
It's
where
a little early yet.
Yeah, well, I'm perusing the thing.
Yeah.
And once again, still in the top 16 are PV and Owen J. Roberts.
Sure.
And in the AAA, you got Methacton, Phoenixville.
5A.
I think 5A, Upper Marion.
Phoenixville, Methacton, Upper Marion's not in it.
I think they're not close to the top 16. They're close.
Well, there's only 20 something teams.
And then obviously the 4A leader is Pope John Paul. They're their leader of the 4A. So all right, defense here.
Yeah.
So defense did another great job. Only give it 1 touchdown. But when they score that touchdown, there's party. It's like, okay, now it's like a real game.
Yeah. Coming out of the locker room,
Coming out of the locker room too. You beat me all my questions here.
Well, that's the only thing that I would say. The one blemish on the defense on Friday was coming out of the locker room, like a 3 and out right there, and then we go down and score, go up 21-0. But they executed on that drive a little bit better than they had. Our kids were in good position. They did a couple things differently, and honestly, there were a couple times where our kids weren't in the position they should have been defensively. One kid here, one kid there. But other than that, just a tremendous job. Again, PV had unbelievable field position the entire night, and they just kept coming through. And again, we are now at 9 underclassmen playing defense and starting on defense, and that takes time. That takes so much time. And again, those underclassmen, other than Shane Lewis, none of them were on the field last year. So that takes a lot of time. We also were down 1. Giassi Ramu was sick, and thank goodness he's feeling a lot better. But he was at the game, had to leave. He was that sick. So we were starting Brett Schultz, a sophomore.
Had a big game for you.
Had a very good game, 2 sacks. He's going to be a tremendous player going forward. But so you add all that in, and it takes time. It takes time, and takes time for guys to fit where they, understand where they fit. It takes guys to trust each other. It takes time for them to trust each other. And that really, actually, that Giassi being sick also affected Owen Norman, who was on the field like a tremendous amount of time on Friday night. So
I thought it was a good night from your linebackers. The linebackers came in, made plays.
Yeah.
I felt like I was saying the linebacker name a lot, making a lot of tackles. They made plays in the backfield, at the line of scrimmage. I thought the linebacking crew did a really good job for you, too.
Yeah, Braden Welsh did a really nice job. He's starting to get much more comfortable. Again, there's a linebacker that didn't play last year for us. Played some special teams.
Special teams, yeah.
Nick Garzarella, linebacker, played special teams last year. Still only in his 7th varsity game.
Yeah.
And then, Mike Bendowski's the glue that holds that. He holds that all together.
No.
But
I was impressed by that linebacking core, kind of, because obviously you can see they want to run the ball, and their line did a really good job, I thought, with the 4, and then those linebackers came in and made plays for you guys.
Yeah. Agree.
You agree?
I agree with that.
It's hard to believe. All right. If we agree, let's take a look at the defensive highlights from Springford, Perkiomen Valley.
Defensive highlights are brought to you by Floor and Decor.
So here, PV's empty,
And
they run that play, and their quarterback does a great job running that play, by the way. But Brady just stuck in there in that hole, made a nice play, real solid tackle. And there he is again.
Linebacker in the backfield. There you go.
You can see here we're causing a little, we're in the middle of a shift, and, they just miss him. You can see that receiver coming down to try to block him, and he missed him.
This is one of your sacks.
This is one of the sacks. That's
Bryce Roberts.
Bryce Roberts. That was early in the game. I think that was third down. Pretty sure it was third down. You see Bryce
beats the
center and makes a play right there in the backfield. Just keeps pushing. And little bootleg, and this was a huge loss for them.
Yeah, this was like a big play.
And that's
I
Brett
think they just had gotten a first down.
Yeah.
They were driving a little bit, and this is a massive loss for them here.
Brett Schultz, and all four linemen are there, by the way.
Yeah.
All four guys did a great job of rushing the quarterback. And there's Brett Schultz again.
Instant pressure.
You'll see him coming off the left-hand side of your screen right there. Obviously, they messed up their protection, but not blocking a defensive end. But, Brett still got to make the play and did.
And once again, before we get this game we talked about has been a real bugaboo for you guys. It's been a tough one to get. Like, that had to
yeah,
been
you had to bring that up.
Well, once again, you got it this year, but it had to have been a little.
Yeah,
I
going
don't know if
into the
relief
game
is the right word, but
no, absolutely.
They'll get that game. And,
absolutely, it's they've gotten the best of us, the better of us, I should say. The last 2 years, we won the previous 2 years. I think they won the previous 2 years before that, so it's been back and forth, and hopefully this starts a stretch. But Rob and his staff do a great job. They have great kids. One of the things that I wanted to mention on the show, like as big of a rivalry as this is, there was no nonsense going on Friday night. Kids were helping each other up. Kids were talking to each other in a positive way during the game. I saw some guys get blocked, get up and be like, hey, great block,
At the end of the game, too, you saw, your lineman was, they were shaking hands.
Yeah.
Almost when you knew it was over, but with time still on the clock, they were already shaking hands and,
Well, listen.
They recognized another good football player.
I would say that UFC is the most respectful sport out there. You see two guys go at it for 3 rounds, and they both are getting shots in, but at the end they give each other a hug and they respect each other. Rarely do you see anything, because they're so exhausted.
Yeah.
Rarely do you see any disrespect post-match. They might be talking going into the match, of course, but at the end of it all, they're just like, man, you gave me all I could handle, vice versa. All right, let the judges make a decision. So I feel like it was kind of like that.
Yeah, good connection. Good
Thank you.
Right there. All right, one more break here, right?
All right.
All right, we're going to take one more commercial break, and we'll be back to preview the game with the Methacton Warriors.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back to the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brennan, with the head coach, Chad Brubaker. And you guys travel this Friday night to the 5-2 Methacton Warriors. I think they're 8 or 9 in the 5A. They're right there in that borderline where once again they're saying, hey, massive opportunity for them to get a win against what in the 6A program, that sort of thing. They've had obviously signs of some really good games throughout the year. They're finding a way to win those close games.
Came back against Boyertown last week.
Yeah, massive. They could have just
scored 45.
Yeah, could have just said it's over, whatever. So once again, we got to be prepared. And from what we've heard, they like to run the ball over there at Methacton.
Yeah, they like to run the ball. However, they won. They beat Boyertown through the air. It was kind of a fluky play that got them their second to last touchdown. But, they came back and scored again. They do like to run the ball. And when you say run the ball, and Coach Kennedy's actually said this in the paper, he said, we're vanilla. So it's not me criticizing or anything, but they are very basic in their run game. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to wear you down.
Yeah.
And they will be at their best if they can get 4 or 5 yards on first down, 3 or 4 on second down, 2 or 4 on, that's what they want to do.
And when you say even the word vanilla, you think it's just like old school high school football. We're going to run it. We're going to get 3 yards. We're going to get 3 yards, and we're going to give ourselves an opportunity. They're never going to try and put themselves behind the sticks.
Correct.
Or 3rd and 10s.
Right. That's how they're approaching the game.
And obviously, it's been a pretty successful way. Hey, this is what we're going to do. Can you come out and stop it?
Yeah. I mean, they're 5-2. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look at Methacton on offense.
Upcoming game highlights are brought to you by Davis Painting.
So this is last week against Boyertown. Yeah, and this is the fluky play.
Ah.
You can see the Boyertown coach with his hands on his head. But that was their second
Knock it down, buddy.
That was the second to last touchdown. But they threw a lot more in this game. Boyertown kid goes for the interception. Another Boyertown coach has his hands on his head. But they'll do a little bit of wing tee stuff. They'll do a little bit of straight eye stuff. And this
guy makes a couple guys miss.
This is the guy. He makes some plays. He's very fast. I think he was second in the pack in the 100 last year, or in the top 3 definitely. And again, they're throwing the ball here, which is not, they were kind of forced to because of the way the game went. But that's not what they've been doing.
Look at that jailbreak screen right there.
Yeah.
And a flag looked like late hit on the quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see if they take a new approach, mix it up a little bit more passing game wise, or, kind of stick to their run game. But they were forced to do that, and they won a game. So.
All right. What are you going to see from defensively?
So defensively, you're going to see a 4-3. We haven't seen a 4-3 in a while, but it's what we play against teams. So. They play quarters coverage for the most part. They will kind of mix up and go to a 4-4, play cover 3. But they've also, in years past, come out in something completely different when we played them. So, we have to be prepared for everything, every week. And kind of at this point in the season, you've seen, all the different defensive fronts you can see. But, it's a matter of recognizing it and adjusting to it.
All right, sounds good, guys. Let's take a look at Methacton on defense.
Upcoming game highlights are brought to you by Davis Painting.
So, of course, Boyertown's pretty much traditional wing tee type stuff.
But here they throw it.
They ran a waggle, and it wasn't open, and Methacton got to them. Again, they run some veer and some wing tee stuff. They tried to run veer here, midline veer and option. And
I've now become used to watching the Boyertown coaches now on the sideline. You've directed my eye there.
Sorry. They tried to run it again. They turned it back the other way. All right, here they're rolling out a little bit. Receiver's not open. Comes open late. And I tell you what, Methacton defensively will hit you. They will hit you. They hit pretty well against PV. They get after it a little bit.
All right, Coach.
I was going to ask you, did you see James Franklin's response to the reporter this week?
Which I'm not.
The reporter asked him. It was on a Zoom. I don't think he was.
Is this where he says you just like to chuck it downfield?
Yeah.
Are you speaking a foreign language?
Yeah. Now, what if I responded to you like you asked a question like that? First of all, it was great that James Franklin did that, because some of these journalists, not you asked the hard-hitting, on-point questions.
Yep.
But some of these guys like to think they know football. And they do as viewers. They don't know as coaches.
And I fully admit that I am just a viewer.
You often do that. But your questions are more on point than some of these guys that are getting paid to do what they're doing.
I always say, a lot of this show for me is, if I was Joe Smith in the crowd.
Sure.
If I got 30 minutes to ask you questions, what would I want to ask you? And I think that's what the people that watch the show really are.
Yeah, no.
I think maybe it's part of the
reason. And I like that. And I think listen, I think in all areas of your life, professionally, personally, with your wife, with your kids, in your classroom, transparency is the best thing, because and I might be wrong, and I'll tell you that too.
No, I think lying only gets to he only leads to trouble. But like I said, even like last week's show, I was like, hey, can we run the ball? And I'm sure there's people like run the ball, but you make the idea.
I'm sure there are.
But you say to them, listen, I feel like I got a kid that can sling it around the field.
Well, we got both.
But I'm saying, like, once again, you're telling people, like, listen, I got a guy who it's a, I don't want to say generation, but like, listen, I got this kid. I'm gonna let him go a little bit too.
Did I tell you? So my high school coach was at the Manheim Township game.
Okay.
Now we come out of the locker room at halftime, and all we did in high school is run. Like we ran. So it's 42-14. The second half's gonna start with the mercy rule, but I'm like, you know what? We're gonna try to come back and win this game. Mm-hmm. So I come out at halftime. He's still on the sidelines, and he goes, "Man, your running back's like one step away a bunch of times from breaking it." And I go, "Coach, I hate to break it to you. We won't be running the ball very much in the second half."
Yeah, no, it's good. And like I said, I think that's part of, our dynamic here is that you're in the room, I'm not in the room, and there's times I'd like to be in the room and listen to the conversation.
You are invited anytime you want.
And listen, that's awesome. When I get to come in after the game from doing the booth and seeing those kids celebrate, like, I do. And the things you've invited me to in the past, I do appreciate.
The other thing, we're kind of running long here.
I know.
We're going to cut into our overall budget.
Yeah.
But it was great last weekend. There was a lot of kids that came back for the game. Tate Carter was there before the game, did a little something for us in the locker room. I saw Will Fish. I saw Brandon Goss. I can't even remember.
Right.
Like between homecoming and last Friday night, just seeing those guys come back and they care.
Yeah.
They care. Hank Coyne,
sure.
R.J. Sheldon, Andrew Scanlon.
Anybody
those
that's
guys
been a part
care.
of, I would say a lot of the programs here at Springford still feel that they're a part of programs.
Yeah. And that's what you want. And, so.
Not good stuff, Coach.
Yeah.
All right. Well, best of luck to you and the crew Friday night with Acton. Make sure you tune in next week as we recap the game with the Warriors and preview the Rams' last Frontier Division game. Would you say that?
No, last Liberty.
Last Liberty Division game with the Norristown Eagles. For the head coach, Chad Brubaker, I'm John Brennan. See you next time on the Gridiron.